Welcome to the Steering Change Podcast, navigating through the commercial transportation industry in Alberta and beyond, powered by the Alberta Motor Transport Association. Here's your host, Kelsey Hipkin.
Hello, listeners of Steering Change. I am today's host, Kelsey Hipkin. As you know, the heart of AMTA is safety, and that will be a lot of the focus on today's discussion, including a quick safety moment to kick us off today. As we are recording, we are in the aftermath of Alberta's first major snowfall, so let this be a quick reminder to stay safe out there. Be prepared for travel, check for road alerts on apps such as 511, and be sure to take your time. Delving deeper into safety, we are thrilled to be joined today by Brenda Suggett, Executive Director of the Canadian Association of Road Safety Professionals, or CARSP. Formed in 1985, CARSP is a national member-based nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting the use of the safe system approach to achieve Vision Zero. Vision Zero being zero fatalities and serious injuries on both Canada's roads and beyond. We are also joined today by my colleague and Steering Change regular, Dave Elniski. Brenda, Dave, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy to be here, Kelsey.
To start, let's do a quick get to know you. Brenda, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, happy to. And first of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's an honor to be able to speak to your audience. So for myself, I joined CARSP in 2010, at that time as administrative support, as I wanted a better work-life balance with two young children compared to my previous profession. As I stayed on in CARSP, they gave me more and more responsibility, and I became their executive director. That's always the way, right? in 2016. And as their executive director, I oversee the day-to-day operations, including our webinars, publications, membership, finances. I also manage the meetings of and am a resource to our board, as well as subcommittees of our board. And I play a key role in strategic planning and operational planning of our organization. I also play a leadership role with our big event, our flagship event of the year, which is the CARSP conference. And lastly, I represent CARSP at different events and with the media, such as today. So prior to working with CARSP, I actually worked in public health as an epidemiologist. And probably from COVID-19, a lot of people now understand what epidemiologists are. So we do investigate clinical disease outbreaks and try to stop or at least slow the spread. And for myself, I not only focused on that, but also chronic disease, just how we can reduce it in our society. I worked with nurses and did different types of reports, such as a report card on the health of our community. So that's a little bit about my past. I also live in Fort Erie. I have two children, a son, 24, and a daughter, 22, and they're both nurses, emergency room nurses, if you can believe it. They both work in the same department as well, which is crazy. And I have a husband, Jeff, of 34 years, who also works in road safety. And on my off time, I like to go cycling and also do Zumba classes and travel when I get a chance. That's about me.
Amazing. Thank you, Brenda. It is interesting kind of with how a healthcare background can translate into safety, and just with yourself and your whole family involved in both. It's just, it's fascinating how those can work together into the career that you've built now. Dave, let's touch on you quickly. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm Dave Elniski, he, they. Well, I'm the AMTA's industry advisor, safety and compliance. So I work with carriers, companies, individuals to just help them build out their safety programs in the areas of occupational health and safety, and then transportation specific. So the NSC, USDOT for federal and provincial companies, and, assist with internal projects. Started as a truck driver and then safety management, then AMTA, and my contact information will be in the show notes, and you can reach out on LinkedIn if you have any questions in the area. And then, I guess outside of the AMTA, I'm also a PhD student in public health at the University of Saskatchewan, and soldier in the Army Reserves. So that's a bit about me. So back to you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Dave, so much for being here, and yourself, Brenda. Let's kick it off. Brenda, we'll start with an easy one. Can you just tell us what CARSP is and how it works?
Yeah, so you did a great job at the beginning, giving the nuts and bolts of what we're about, but I'll just add on to that. So we are a national nonprofit association. We basically are involved in right from the beginning, the research, management, delivery, and promotion of road safety programs across Canada. We have 500 members. We're board driven, and as I mentioned subcommittees before, and it's a very streamlined staff. There's only myself as the executive director, and we have an executive administrator as well, who's a great support to me and our board. There is no requirement to become a member. You just have to pay our annual fee. And we do offer, I like to think of them as three sort of big service areas or service offerings. The first one is knowledge sharing, the second is news, and the third is networking. So, and I'll just talk a little bit about each of those. So with respect to knowledge sharing, we do share knowledge that we're each working on. Our people who are doing practice right in the field, offering programs, as well as those doing research. We offer that information at our conference, for instance, as well as our webinars. Our members do give a lot of presentations. And we have a newsletter that we produce quarterly. And so that's another venue, or I should say vehicle, that we use to provide that information. We also have workshops too, which are very closely aligned with our conference. Now, with respect to news, we do scan the news websites across the country and produce a monthly compilation of road safety news, just to keep our members informed. As well, we report on events, both on our website as well as in our newsletter. And we also report on new happenings, such as with the government, if there's new regulations, there's new policies, for instance, we report on that either in our Safety Digest or our newsletter. So that's so I've already touched on knowledge sharing, news. Now, in respect to networking, we do provide those opportunities at our conference. We have a number of events that really give the conference delegates time to chat, to rub shoulders, get to know each other. And also we have a member database, so it's searchable. So you can search by name or by the organization that the person works in. And that's a way that people can reach out to each other. And also with our webinars, the people who present give their contact information. So after listening to something, if something interests you, you can reach out to that presenter and learn a bit more about their projects. You can network that way. And our membership is also very affordable. It's just $125 a year. And we do have group rates as well.
Awesome. So really very similar to AMTA in that there's memberships, there's nonprofits. You have a focus on networking for your members, whereas we are more obviously commercial transportation. Who is among your membership?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we've got over 500 members, and they're primarily from across Canada. We do have some international members, but CARSP is a diverse group, basically. It's very multidisciplinary. So it's anybody who basically has a role to do with road safety in general across Canada. So we're talking about engineers, health and safety professionals within trucking companies, public health professionals, enforcement, such as police officers, nonprofits, like I'll give an example, MAD Canada or Parachute Canada, which is an injury prevention association. We also have people at different levels of government in the public sector, as well as from universities, academics doing research and teaching road safety in their courses. So it's a broad array of different backgrounds, which is really our big strength as an association. That's what really separates us, because a lot of other professional associations, they focus on one group, either engineers or truck drivers, for instance, whereas we're across the board. And we believe what you said at the beginning about the safe system approach and Vision Zero, the best way to really combat the issues related to road safety is to do it in a multidisciplinary way, because everyone has a role with it. And the more we work together rather than silos, the greater chance we have of improving the safety on our roads.
Absolutely. And do you want to delve into that piece a little more, Dave?
Yeah, for sure. I guess it kind of ties into my questions here about, I guess, why should trucking companies or carriers, like why should they be paying attention to CARSP and then road safety research in general? Like, I guess, in other words, maybe not specifically the mega carriers, but typical trucking, busing companies. How can they benefit from learning more about this work that is going on that your organization is promoting?
That's a great question, Dave. So basically, our members work on both research and also program development in many areas of road safety, including truck and bus safety and driver health and wellness. So, for instance, our research can help guide your policies and programs. And I'll give you a few different areas. So, for instance, with truck driver training, your members can learn about effective programs and best practices. And I pulled a few presentations that occurred at our past conferences just to give you an idea of the content or the topics that we speak on. So one of them is distracted driving and workplace safety policies, a business case for employers. Another one is our truck driver training requirements, meeting the safety needs of the transportation industry. And lastly, improving truck driver and vulnerable road user interactions through driver training, a subject matter expert interview study. So that's kind of on the truck driver training side of things. Now, with respect to health and wellness, if you're able to, listen and learn from what our researchers and people developing the programs are doing, this will help reduce injury and encourage long-term commitment and reduce attrition and absenteeism. So again, some of the topics that they covered were occupational health and safety risks in Canadian long-haul truck drivers. Another one was looking at depression of long-haul truck drivers in Western Canada and how much is it out there, the prevalence of it, and what are the risk factors for it. Another one was evaluating best practice programs to improve health and wellness of truck drivers in British Columbia. And another one, yet again, was looking at musculoskeletal disorders around long-haul truck drivers, which is an issue. It's definitely something that comes up. So that's with respect to both training and health and wellness programs. So in terms of policy and program development, our research can help with those. There's also research that we do or programs that we develop that look at the equipment to use. So for instance, one of the studies that we reported on was exploring the association between the truck driver's seat and driver fatigue, that there was a relationship between those. Another one was looking at the distraction and how using an app would help prevent driver distraction. And speed limiters is another thing that our members report on. And one of the studies was evaluating the safety effectiveness of Ontario's speed limiter legislation for large trucks. Now, the other thing, in addition to that, was knowledge sharing. So again, our three different services are knowledge sharing, news, and networking. So with respect to news, our monthly news digest would help keep your carriers abreast of some new developments that are happening in the trucking industry. For instance, we report news stories from across Canada. So if there's any new resources, like for instance, by the provincial government, or if there's new steps that the federal government is thinking of taking, like for instance, one of the news stories we reported was the federal government takes steps to curb bus and truck driver fatigue in Canada. So we would report that to you. And once again, networking. So if your carriers, the health and safety people, or those who are focused on the programs and making decisions around maintenance and equipment to buy for the trucks, if those people could come to our conference and rub shoulders with those doing the work in that area, I think it'll help inform their decisions going forward. And again, I mentioned the other two ways you can network too, which is through our member database and just participating in our webinars and reaching out to the presenters. So,
well, thank you. So, I guess what I'm kind of hearing there is pretty much every aspect of a trucking or busing company's operations. There's going to be some evidence, some availability of evidence, anyways, that you could benefit from. I guess just as a little aside, are we able to kind of show those or share maybe links to that research perhaps in our show notes? Or
yeah, I'm happy to do that.
No, that'd be great. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because it's something that a lot of trucking companies, if they're just struggling with basic compliance, then I mean, I guess that's their focus. But no, there are a lot of companies that want evidence-based solutions for systemic issues in their operations or within the industry. So it does sound like there'd be a lot of value in what you'd have to offer. So I guess building on that, would you say there's any particular types of carriers that could, like especially perhaps benefit the most from CARSP work and general road safety research?
Yeah, like just looking at what's been presented over the years at our conferences and in our newsletter and webinars and so forth, there seems to be a lot of information coming up that would relate to long haul truck drivers in particular. So I mentioned before things like, the musculoskeletal disorders that are evident. There's also higher risk of depression that occur as well. And there's occupational health and safety risks. There's a number of them that have been identified, particularly in long haul truck drivers. So I think they in particular would benefit because there has been a lot of work done by our members in those areas. Also with respect to bus driver carriers as well, there has been a number of studies as well that our members have reported on. An example is a literature review. So basically, one of our researchers went and scanned the whole literature, like all the research articles out there, and found out what are some of the indicators that impact a driver's health and safety. So what are the things, is it the seat? Is it the busyness of the road? Is it the hours that they have to work? So they looked at all these different indicators, all these different factors, and decided, okay, what are the ones that are really impacting their health and wellness? So that's another example. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey.
So I guess, shifting gears here or changing lanes or whatever other trucking related puns I can come up with. The next question, then I'm wondering if you can give us a little bit about the training offerings that CARSP has and young professionals committees, like that, maybe that aspect of the organization a bit.
Definitely. So I think I mentioned before that we have free monthly webinars that we give to our members, and they're on a variety of road safety topics. And we do reach out to our members. One of the things we do is that after each webinar, we actually ask them to fill out a feedback survey and let us know what topics they'd like to see in the future. And also from time to time, we actually survey our members as well. So we try to keep in touch with what are some of the needs. Now, having said that, we currently don't have a lot of our members from the carrier industry. And this is something, by being on your podcast, I'm trying to change that. And I'm trying to lure people to join CARSP. And if we do see an influx of people from that particular group, we would definitely reach out and ask what are some topics that you'd like to learn about. I've given a number of topics that we've covered in the past in terms of our conference. But as I said, we haven't done a lot of them in our webinars. And we do have still a lot of connections with these past people who presented at our conference. So we'd be happy to put something together that would be really relevant to the issues that the current trucking industry is dealing with. So you'd mentioned the Young Professionals Committee. This is kind of a subgroup of our association, and they are particularly focused on the up and coming. So the people who want to get into the road safety field. And so their members consist of either people that are in school that are taking some road safety courses, or they're those that are just starting out in the field and they're interested in road safety as well. They're also always trying to get more members, so trying to interest people in road safety. And truck driving has definitely got that angle too, and that's something I think, they would benefit from belonging to this group. It would get them, passionate, I think, about road safety and about best practices and so forth. So what they do, this Young Professionals Committee, is they, in addition to encouraging people to get into road safety and join their group, they offer training. They do professional development training. They also usually at our conference, we'll have like a panel that will focus on some issues that are related to youth and road safety, for instance, drinking and driving and so forth. And they also fund and help youth to be able to attend too. So they have a travel bursary. They also encourage research and methods looking at best practices too. And they do that through offering competitions. So they have like a student paper competition as well as a poster competition. And those also have cash prizes. So basically, they're trying to encourage people to get into road safety through offering funding and just recognition. And it's a very dynamic, interesting group to belong to. So I highly encourage your members to check it out.
Now, dare I ask what the age range is for
yes.
being a young professional? I'm curious to see if I make the cut.
Yeah. So, you know what? I think over the years they've relaxed it. They used to say 30, but I think now even people just getting into a new field, they kind of relax it. So I'd say if you're in your 30s, you still qualify. So as long as you're kind of in that little group of people that are kind of new to road safety and excited about it and so forth, then yeah, you qualify.
Okay. And that kind of right in that range, between being able to participate in youth programs, but not quite yet getting discounts at Smitty's. But it's all good. Okay, well, last question we have. We don't have a conference coming up in May, I believe. What could participants or attendees expect from that event? And where and when, that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. So that conference we're actually having in Quebec City. It's going to be right at the convention center, which is downtown. It's in a gorgeous area of the old city, just on the outside of the border of the old city and the new city. And we're actually co-hosting it with two other partners. One is Parachute Canada, which is a national injury prevention organization, which obviously injury prevention is a big part, with motor vehicle collisions being a top one in Canada. So this is definitely road safety is a definite important topic for them. The other partner is it's basically our association, but in Europe, and they have a long name, International Cooperation on Theories and Concepts in Traffic Safety, but they're essentially like us, but in Europe. It takes place in May from the 20th to the 23rd. The theme is going to be on technology. The actual title is Innovative Interventions and Technologies for Safer Roads, a Global Perspective, again, because of our partner in Europe. So it's going to, in a nutshell, explore both the good and the bad sides of technology. So an example of good is advanced driver assistance systems, such as airbags and lane keeping technologies and lane changing technologies, for instance. But there's also the bad. So there's distraction too that some of these ADAS systems can create. So some of them have huge screens that can distract people. So it's looking at both sides, and we're not only looking at things like vehicle design, we're looking at driver behavior. So how can technology help us reduce such harmful behaviors as impaired driving, distracted driving, speeding, and other types of other forms of risky driving. So that's just a key focus of our conference, but we always have a lot of other topics that we look at as well. So there will be definitely things such as the impact of truck driver training programs, effectiveness of speed limiters, health and wellness programs aimed at truck drivers. So all those kind of regular type ones we focus on will be there as well.
Excellent.
Sounds like an awesome event, Brenda. I really want to thank you for joining us today and sharing all that valuable information. I'm particularly intrigued by the Young Professionals Committee, as in commercial transportation, especially we're seeing an aging demographic. So it's nice to see some initiatives out there with a younger audience encouraging road safety. I'm a little south of joining that committee myself, so I'm going to leave that one to Dave. Brenda, is there anything you would like to add as we wind up?
Yeah, so I would just encourage people to check out our website, which is carsp.ca. There's actually a lot of information that's free. You don't need to be a member to access it. For instance, our newsletters, you can access all of those, as well as our Safety Digest. The only one you can't access is the most current one, which is just for members. But as we add a new one, the previous one becomes available. And also, if you have any questions, I welcome people to reach out to me directly. My email is info@carsp.ca, and we will leave that for you in the notes. Also, just again, if we do get an influx of carriers, we would definitely work with them to develop a series of webinars. We definitely want to have content that pertains to you and your issues. And my last plug is just again that membership is really inexpensive, $125 a year, and we have group rates as well. So yeah, check us out. We'd love to connect with you.
Amazing. Thank you, Brenda. And as mentioned, folks, we will have a lot of links in the show notes to connect to what we chatted about today. Dave, winding down, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add is that, for the carriers listening, it is possible to take research and new research and primary research and apply it to your operations. That doesn't necessarily mean it's easy, and it doesn't necessarily mean it will always be the case, but when people are looking for evidence-based solutions to this or that, there's an entire community of people who might very well have an answer that'll work for your operations. And it's not just the mega carriers that can use this kind of stuff. So there's organizations like CARSP you can reach out to us, and we can assist as within our capacity as well. So there are communities, there's people that are not just creating this information and doing these studies, but very, very interested in making sure that it makes it to the end user, so that ultimately we are improving public safety.
Absolutely. And I think that's the most important thing for both of these associations is safety at the forefront. Brenda, Dave, thank you for participating in what will be the first Steering Change episode of 2025. For our listeners, Happy New Year out there. Thank you for joining us for this episode. As mentioned, there will be a lot of info in the show notes below. And a quick news on the AMTA side. Our annual conference and award celebration registration is now open, and that includes our AMTA award nominations. We all know there are several deserving people out there who should be nominated for these awards, so feel free to reach out for more information. If you have any questions or comments about Steering Change, our episode today, or any of our episodes, reach out on our Instagram at AMTA_CA or LinkedIn and Facebook at Alberta Motor Transport Association. Stay safe and see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of AMTA's Steering Change podcast. The views expressed by guests of the Steering Change podcast are their own and may not reflect the views of AMTA, its hosts, or sponsors. Do you have a question that you would like answered on an upcoming episode of the Steering Change podcast? We want to hear from you. To submit a question to the Steering Change mailbag, hit up our DMs on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram with the hashtag Steering Change, and your question will be answered either live on the podcast or by one of our SMEs here at AMTA. We ask that you share this episode with those in your network that could benefit from what we discussed today, and make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform so you can be notified when future episodes are released. You can learn more about us and our mission by visiting www.amta.ca. Now get out there and have a safe day.